Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining the session today. I'm Michael Kropidlowski. I've been with Kore.AI now, just coming up on 3 months, and really excited about bringing conversational AI to everyone, right? Either on the customer side, the employee side, and how that can impact really great experiences and outcomes. So I've been in product marketing for a long, long time, right? And whether it's software, tech, whatever, even, consumer goods, right? Marketing is all about, talking about the value that people get out of a particular product, right? And communicating that and helping sales do that and so on. And so in my 23 years, there's lots and lots of things that have happened, and the world has changed a lot in 23 years. But I also have 30 years of contact center experience, and I worked for a company called Aspect Software, now Alvaria. One thing that's consistent between, right, the contact center side, any retail, anything that there's consumers, is everybody wants to improve the experience. And why is that? Right? We know why, right? Because that keeps people happier, coming back for more, and so on. So, that's really what I do at Kore.AI, is promoting how you can improve, experiences for customers, for employees, leveraging conversational AI and automation. I have a whole crew here with me. I've got 3 other people here, and we have a booth outside. So, they can help us with questions and things here, but you can also visit us at the booth. So insurers are under a lot of pressure, right? I mean, just like any other vertical or industry, there's things going on out there that you can't control necessarily at a macro and microeconomic level. So you've got consumers that are changing, their preferences are changing. There's rising costs with insurance, especially with healthcare, obviously. But costs are typically going up everywhere, especially now. And so that creates some economic uncertainty. The other thing is that there's some other things like managing your talent. How do you operate as efficiently as possible, but still giving your policyholders, your customers, the right level of help that they need, whether it's a human or through an automated self-service experience, and how do you balance that, right? If you send everything to agents, we saw when COVID hit, right? Those companies that didn't have really good self-service options, their customers were waiting sometimes 5-10 hours on the phone, right? I think WestJet was the worst example I read up in Canada. Sorry if there's anyone from WestJet or travels WestJet a lot, but they didn't have options for customers to self-serve, or they couldn't quickly deploy something saying, hey, just click here, cancel your flight, and rest assured you'll get a credit for that flight and book when you're ready in the future. Instead, they had to wait, and people wanted to wait, and I don't know who waits 10 hours, but people do. So, so the other thing customers are telling us, and this is a study by Zendesk that they did, but they want quick resolutions. They want effective resolutions, right? When they're trying to get a quick answer about something, about their claim, about maybe a new policy that they're looking at, they want to get quick answers. And so if we provide that through self-service in an automated way, that's great. And if they need to get to a human, we should be able to provide that capability to them as well. And sharing what happened on the self-service side, if they started there, and then sharing that with the agent, what's the intent, what do they want to do. They also want helpful and empathetic agents. So when they do speak to a human, it's probably because they've tried to do it themselves and can't, or they have a particular situation that's, very personal, or, especially if it's in healthcare related insurance. So they might have some questions that they need some empathy there. And then of course the 24/7 support, lots of channels, customers. I don't think we talk about channels enough. They use certain channels depending where they are and what they're doing, right? Everybody doesn't always want to use voice. I might be on a train or a plane, right? And I can chat, but I can't talk necessarily. Likewise, if you're in the car, you don't want to be texting and driving, right? So you probably would use voice. So there's appropriate channels for every situation, and you just have to provide the ones that your customers are most likely to engage on. You don't have to do them all, but give them the ones that they want to. And then the other thing I think companies forget a lot about is every interaction counts, right? When you're trying to retain and keep customers happy, you have to think about all of the touch points across your organization. And it only takes a few that are in that mid-range, the yellow, or the frustrating, angry phase, to really get them to consider switching, right? And because there's low bars to switching, you can change insurance providers, banks, mobile phones, take your number with you. Now you're went from Verizon to T-Mobile or vice versa, right? So when we live in this world of highly commoditized verticals and there's lots of competition, you have to really think about this, because if you think you're doing mostly a great job, you probably are, but there's just a few things that can often make customers consider switching. And so it's important to think about, how do you deliver consistent experiences? It's hard. So you have to think about, what's the customer experience you're trying to provide, or again, whether that's self-service or live. Are you able to help your employees, whether that's someone processing claims, right, in the back office, whether that's somebody in the contact center, so you help them with what to say and do, and give them prompts and help them through their transaction with next best action, or actually listening to the, or reading the text, listening to the voice, and giving them the forms and pulling the data and the things that they need automatically for the agent. So yeah, there's lots of things to do there, and depending on how well you do that for the employee or for the customer, you're going to get an outcome, and hopefully, if you do them right, you get more good outcomes than bad. And so I would argue that when you look at improving customer experience, you also have to think about the employee or the agent experience. You can't focus on one and not the other, right? So your employees and agents, you can retain them longer by keeping them happy, giving them the empowerment tools, the flexibility, and helping them through every transaction. And that will have a big benefit to the customer experience, especially when they're working with live people. But you can work on customer experience a couple of different ways. And so that's, at Kore, that's really at the core of everything we do, pun intended there with the name, is bringing AI and automation into the situation to assist either on the customer or, in this case, the agent side. So we have a CCaaS offering for this, and we also have it available on-prem, but it's to optimize just what I was talking about, the customer, the agent, and the contact center operations experience. And so, these are the things that customers tell us they need all the time, right? I need to automate as many interactions that make sense, right? Every interaction, if I'm going to have a discussion about, a situation with cancer or breast cancer or something like that, you don't want to push that to a bot probably, right? There probably needs to be a human conversation, show some empathy, and talk through that. So, those things that you cannot automate, right? An address change, pay a bill, those types of things, that's great. Use automation for that. But when you have tougher situations that need to be handled by a human, let that agent be the hero, let them be the advocate, let them be the person that's the problem solver versus the order taker and just pulling information person. You also need a way to route, right? And to help make those decisions, what should be automated and what should be go through to an agent. And of course, we talked about channel choice and being able to route based on intent and sentiment. So that's really important too, right? So the AI machine learning capability, right, doesn't read just keywords, right? It reads sentence structure, understands intent, can also do multiple intents, right? So if somebody says, I want to do X, but I also want to do this, and don't let me forget to do that. So there's 3 intents there, right? And it'll keep track of all of that and do what it can with automation, and then if and when it needs to go to the agent, it can do that as well. This is a very busy slide, but really all I want to say here is, think about your channels, whether they're employee-facing or employee channels like the ones you see up there, the enterprise messenger in the upper left-hand corner, and then of course the channels for customers. It can be traditional IVR, voice, all conversational, or any of the text-based digital channels. And we sit in the middle there with all the back-end systems that you see on here. So it's working, our platform is working Understanding the intent, the sentiment, is the customer happy, frustrated, angry, right? It can pick all that up, pass it through to an agent if necessary. But if it's something like an address change, it can be just stay in the automated system and 100% containment and self-service. So then let's look at, and then, I like to talk about use cases. So, obviously we're here for insurance. You see some there on the customer experience side. But, we really are all about bringing AI into any use case and helping through automation either on the customer side or the employee side. So if you can think of a use case, we can probably do it. And as it gets more and more complex, that's okay too. It doesn't all just have to be paying a bill, right? They can get more complex, but there's usually a bar, like I said earlier, where you say, okay, once it crosses or it gets this complex, then it needs to go to a human. And so let's transition and talk a little bit about agents here before we wrap up. How's my time going? Okay, I've got a little time left. So contact center agents, right, they need help specifically, right? If you think about an agent and everything that they do, they probably got 3 or 4, maybe 6 screens. I've heard some contact centers I've visited in my past, 8 or 10 screens that they have to access to get through a particular transaction. That's pretty hard. And so they're multitasking. They might need help from subject matter experts, those types of things. And so, this is a stat that I found out there from ICMI talking about, leaders in customer service recognize that they do not fully give agents what they need to provide the best customer experience. So 74%, I thought that was a huge number, right? When you think about all the people giving service out there. And then 26% of customers say they're frustrated because the person that they're working with, the agent, the customer service rep, doesn't have the tools, can't answer their questions, and so they find that very frustrating. I'm surprised that number's not higher, because we've all called in, right, to a contact center and they say, oh, my computer's running slow, hold on, let me pull this up. And, right, sometimes they can't get to everything they need to answer the question or solve the problem. And then, this is an important thing to think about. If you have contact centers, and I'm sure every one of your companies probably does, they're the front line with the customer, but how much time are they really spending working with the customer, like I said earlier, being the advocate, problem solving, helping them compare plans, all the things that they need to do. And, this is just some fictitious numbers I threw up here, but it could look like this, right? That 25% of their time is actually spent of the transaction working with the customer, helping the customer. And the other 75% you see here are multitasking, searching for information, trying to get answers from subject matter experts. And then we know how everybody, if you've ever managed a call center, everyone thinks the agents hide and wrap, right? So if you give them a 2-minute wrap, they'll take 2 minutes to wrap, right? Because then they get a break in between each call. So whether they do that on purpose or not, that's to be decided. But what if you could automate some or all of that 75%, right? And leverage automation and conversational AI and give them a virtual assistant to assist. And maybe you could flip the numbers around, where they can spend 75% of their time and now 25% of their time on those multitasking, looking for information, working with the virtual assistant that's actually feeding them information, right? So that greatly reduces their time, and then they can focus on the most important part, the customers. So we have a solution that we help. It's on the agent desktop, and it's leveraging, the same bot that helped the customer when that comes through to the agent. They get the bot then transitions and says, okay, here's all the information you needed to know. We did on the self-service side, right? Here's the customer's intent. Here's the customer sentiment, all that sort of thing. It gets passed through, and then it helps the agent continue the call or pick up where they left off on the self-service side. Or maybe it's starting a whole new topic, like I need to compare plans, and they never did that on the self-service side. They wanted to pass it through to an agent. So, this is what the solution helps agents do. So it helps them with providing suggestions on what to say. So again, actively listening or reading the digital interaction, and then giving suggested responses and things that they can say. Also, next best actions, right? So looking at, what if there's not an immediate response, what's the next best action? And you could, there's lots of things you could do there. And then senses the user sentiment. So, how urgent is the request? Is the person frustrated, right? Is this their, they've said, this is my 6th call, right? And it says that to the automated system. And now it passes that through to the agent so they get a feeling for the temperature of the customer. Are they feeling good? Or are they feeling frustrated? Or are they angry?